Nickolaus, perhaps let's just go back to the ruling handed down by the Judge President Obrile Dwaba this morning, of course, and a full bench of the North Gauteng High Court, saying that the merits under which this appeal was brought before them were actually unfounded and inconsistent.
Well, indeed, a very unforgiving judgment in the view of the NPA and lawyers for President Jacob Zuma. Judge Obrile Dwaba reading out a decision from a full bench in this North Gauteng High Court, stating that in essence the NPA and lawyers for President Jacob Zuma cherry-picked from their April judgment in their argument, arguing that the judgment would have profound consequences for the independence of the National Prosecuting Authority, and in essence that the original decision to drop charges in 2009 by then acting NPA head Mokotedi Mshe was ethical and within legal grounds. That all struck down by a full bench of the North Gauteng High Court. And really it leaves the legal challenge against that April ruling in a state of disarray, essentially, for the NPA and President Jacob Zuma's lawyers. No word from the presidency as of yet, nor from the NPA itself. But having a look at the legal journey now, they would have to appeal the Supreme Court of Appeal directly, at least petition the Supreme Court of Appeal down in Bloemfontein within the next 2 weeks to hear that case. But having a look at the argument that was put forward, at least the judgment that was handed down by the Judge President Dwaba, not very reasonable chances of success. But we have to look back at this legal marathon, Kathy. It started way back in 2009 when the NPA dropped those charges against President Jacob Zuma, 783 corruption charges, only weeks before he ascended to the highest office in the land. A lot of legal toing and froing. It started in this court, it headed to the Supreme Court of Appeal, came back here. It ended up with the actual spy tapes, the recording of those conversations between then Scorpions head Leonard McCarthy and NPA boss Bulelani Ngcuka, talking about the political timing of those charges being laid against President Jacob Zuma before he became president. Then once the DA had a chance to have a look and listen to those recordings, they mounted their legal challenge, and that's where we essentially come to today, with that judgment in the North Gauteng High Court being handed out on April 29th this year, stating that the decision to drop those charges was irrational by Mokotedi Mshe 7 years ago.
Nickolaus, of course, one of the bases of the NPA for being part of this appeal application was that they felt their independence was in jeopardy, saying that that particular ruling in April had somewhat breached the issue of separation of powers. Tell us how the court has provided clarity on that matter.
Well, essentially the court rejected that argument. The NPA was saying, hang on now, we have a separation of powers doctrine in South African society for a reason here, and you are infringing on what should be independent powers. You can't have the juror being the prosecutor, as it were. But the full bench of the North Gauteng High Court rejecting that argument, saying that this decision, this ruling, did not impinge on the NPA's independence to decide whether or not they will prosecute or not. Looking at it strictly from a legal point of view, your decision, and this is, of course, you could imagine the North Gauteng High Court speaking to the NPA, your decision to drop charges in 2009 is invalid from a legal point of view. And the ultimate decision on whether or not President Jacob Zuma should face charges does not lie in the NPA's decision on whether it should prosecute or not. So that argument, in essence, being smacked down in the North Gauteng High Court's ruling that the bid to appeal their April 29 judgment on those corruption charges and the decision to drop them being dismissed with costs. So it's where we stand at this point in time. It's a legal marathon that is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, NPA as well as lawyers for President Jacob Zuma now have the option to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal directly within the next 2 weeks. But it's up to the Supreme Court of Appeal then to decide whether or not it will hear the matter. And also from there, it would not be the end. There's also, with the Constitutional Court being the apex court in South Africa, there is still a chance that this could land at the doors of the Constitutional Court in Bloemfontein in Johannesburg.